Good evening, my name is Alex, and today I want to speak to you about a man that I greatly admire. He was known for one particular part of his life, and if I told you what that part was, you would recognize him instantly. So rather than do that, I'm going to tell you about his other interests in life, and then see if you can guess who he is. He was born in 1874 with a family of 7 kids in Budapest, and he moved to the States when he was very young. And one of the reasons why I love him so much is because he did so much with his life. He had so many interests in his life, he was fearless, and he achieved so much in such a short amount of time. One of his interests was movies. So for 20 years he produced and directed and acted in movies. Although he never achieved much fame because of it, he was still rewarded to be a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. The second thing that he did was aviation. So aviation was still new at the time, and he claimed to be the first person in Australia to fly. Although he didn't actually officially, media outlets today still credit him with that accomplishment, even though there were 2 people before him who did fly in Australia. He was such a great man at promoting himself, and he had such a big ego that he was able to convince people of this fact. Interestingly enough, in part of his self-promotion, when he was in his illustrious career at the beginning of his life, he was able to promote himself as one of the great people of all time coming from Europe, even though he had never been to Europe. And when he was traveling in Europe, he said he was one of the very greatest people in the States, even though he wasn't that famous yet in the States. The third aspect of his life that was very interesting to him was death. He was fascinated by death, probably because in the early part of his career, he had a lot of sudden death or near-death experiences. So what he would do is he would try to seek out mediums and spiritualists to see if they could truly speak with the dead. And what he found out very quickly was that they were all charlatans. And he was able to debunk them, sometimes right on the spot, and prove to them and prove to other people why they were fake. And the reason for this is because he had a very good ability to understand how to deceive people. So what he did is, for a period of time actually, he took people to trials, and he was generally trying to see if he could communicate with the dead, but he never found one that did. And he even offered cash prizes to people who could, and unfortunately nobody was able to achieve the prize. But one of the things about death is that he told his wife, he agreed with his wife, that if he ever passed before she did, that he would try his best to communicate from the grave. And they agreed on a certain passphrase. And for 10 years after his death, she sought out mediums and spiritualists, and of course, he was never able to communicate. But there's even people today who seek out this tradition to see if he can communicate. Like I said, one of the reasons why I was so fascinated by him is because of all the things he accomplished in life. Even though he was known for one part of his life, he did so much more with his life. So I wanted to know, before I get to he died when he was very young, even though accomplished so much. He was 52 years old, and he died from complications of appendicitis. I wanted to know if you guys can guess who he is.
Why am I thinking Houdini?
His name was Eric Weiss, and he was known as Harry Houdini.
Wow.